Hey everyone, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is at for you. If you've seen my stuff before, this is a much different background than normal. I am coming to you from a hotel room in undisclosed locations, aka Orlando, Florida. So I a couple weeks ago, I was teaching a class out in Singapore, and they asked me on day one. They said, "Hey, we have a community night on Wednesday, and the instructor that was going to run this community night and speak there for an hour and a half didn't wasn't able to make it. They had an issue, and they asked me if I could cover, and I'm like, sure, no problem." And the thing is, I had lots of talks prepared that I just could have gone and used one of those, any of my recent conference talks, etc. And I did absolutely none of it. No PowerPoints, no nothing. I just talked on the ways that I've used AI, basically how that has changed in 2025, because it has changed rather drastically in a few different areas. And so that's what I figured I would talk about today. And I've spoken about AI quite a bit over the past 2 years, and I'm always very honest. I say I'm not an AI researcher. I'm just a very, very busy person, right? I was in DC about a month and a half ago, and I was invited to a little happy hour, cocktail mixers and such, and there was people that were way, way like high in government circles there, right? Very, very high up, a room that probably I had no business being in, but people are coming up and talking to me. I'm like, oh, well, I have two SANS classes. I have my own small business. And this one lady's like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I cheat. I use AI constantly all the time, right? Which of course isn't cheating so much, depending on how you're using it, just being smart. So let us take a minute and talk about, once again, the way that I'm using AI and how that's changed. First things first, the biggest, most impactful change I have made this year, and it's really not close, is doing more of what I'm doing exactly right now. No, not hanging out in Orlando, Florida hotel rooms. It's talking. I talk so much quicker than I type, right? I just really do. And even people who were like, yeah, I can type 100 words a minute. Cool. You probably still talk quicker, right? We think and we talk very, very quicker. It usually takes longer to kind of translation that. And so really, I've stopped typing for the most part, and I just transcribe everything I really, really, truly do. So how do we do that, right? It's on Windows. What we can do here is I can hold down the Windows key and hit H. And now everything that I'm saying, you see, it's just transcribing right in here into Notepad. And it's doing a pretty darn good job, right? It doesn't get everything perfect, right? But as you can see here, I don't know that it's necessarily messed up yet. Now, I don't just sit here and speak straight into Word or straight into something else. I use AI to clean it up. And let me show you what I do. So if you stop this right now, if you've seen me speak before, I always talk about Claude from Anthropic, and I say, Claude is just a far superior writer for any type of writing tasks than OpenAI is. At least the last time in my test, it has been far, far superior. And so I have a paid account on both. I actually have the baller OpenAI account. We'll talk about why in just a couple of minutes. But here with Claude, this is basically what I will do. Hey, I'm getting ready to excuse me, an email to a friend and coworker. And so, as usual, don't really change anything that I say, just clean it up. Here goes. And then I'll just sit here and talk, and I'll say exactly what I want to say. And maybe I'll like stumble over my words. Maybe I'll have to correct myself, right? Maybe I'll repeat something. Maybe I'll do something, just, whatever, and think like, oh, well, now it's not perfect, right? It had these flaws where if I was straight into Word, that would be an issue. But by piping it into AI and telling it, hey, don't really change what I'm saying, just clean it up. And it'll sit here and it'll do exactly that, right? And every once in a while, I've only had to do this a few times, but every once in a while, I'll just feel off, right? I'll get a student question early in the morning. There might be some extra ums. I may kind of correct myself. And just a few things going on. And I'll tell Claude at the end, I'll be like, all right, Claude, this one's been a little rough. I need you to clean this up a little bit more than than normal. And then it'll just hit done, right? And it'll sit here and it'll clean it up right like that. It does amazing. The other morning, I knocked out 5 blog posts in 28 minutes. And some people would hear that and they think instantly, okay, well, you cheated, right? You didn't write the blog post. AI did. No, I wrote them with my mouth, right? The same way like I read that book when I actually listened to an audiobook. I wrote it, right? Just with my mouth, not with my hands and a keyboard or pen and paper. If I was really a barbarian. And so that way, it's just so effective, right? And we'll talk about the image generation here a little bit later on towards the end of the talk. I still, even though I have the baller OpenAI, and I know Gemini now, the new 2.5 recently came out, and that has been really, really good too. I still, in my testing, Claude is the best writer. Anytime I need anything written, right? Reply to a student, answering a question, right? A business inquiry, anything like that where I'm actually send something in writing, Claude is what I'm going to use to clean anything up. It just is. So once again, the dictation and then using Claude to clean it up, I think has been the biggest improvement that I've made this year. It has just really, really dramatically increased my productivity because I wasn't honestly the world's greatest typer anyway. So to me, this has been huge. Now, I said that I have the paid Claude plan, which is about 20 bucks a month. I've before had the paid OpenAI plan too, which was 20 bucks a month. Recently, about 2 months ago now, I actually upgraded to the baller $200 a month OpenAI plan, which before was a joke, right? It was a complete, basically waste of money. There was like a handful of people that could actually benefit from it. There was actually no need for it. But then, as I record this in mid-April, they came out with something about 2 months ago that really changed it. And that was deep research. And at first, deep research was only available for the $200 a month plan. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm already paying 20. You kind of justify it to yourself, right? I'm already paying 20. So really it's not $200 a month. It's only an extra 180, right? At prices like that, how can I afford not to? No, I told myself like, listen, you need to test it. You can write a few blog posts about your experience with it, whatever. And then at the end of the month, you can downgrade it back to the $20 a month plan. So that to me seemed reasonable. Plus, you're teaching, you're speaking about this stuff. You need to be familiar with things. You need to test it. And so I upgraded my plan, figuring, hey, maybe I'll just do it for a month. I have yet to downgrade my plan. And a couple weeks ago, they actually added deep research into the $20 a month tier too, but only 10 uses a month. Whereas the baller $200 a month tier still has the 120 now uses. They raised it when they gave 10 to the $20 a month tier. They boosted the premium tier from 100 to 120. I don't think I've ever come close to using it 120 times in a month, but I still use it all the time and I'm in no rush to cancel it. That is how much value personally it has proven to me. If you've never seen it, right? If you haven't, I know I've spoken about it before, but if you haven't seen it, this is how it works. Basically, it doesn't matter what model you're on, but usually I will go to 401 Pro just when I ask follow-up questions. I'm getting the best model they have. But you come down here and you click deep research and you see for the next 3 days, there's 3 days left in this month. I've got 93 available at 120. That means I've used it 27 times in the past month. So once again, I haven't come close to hitting my number, but I've also used it basically because I've still got 3 days left. So I'll probably end up using it like 3 times as much as the $20 a month tier would. Now, like I said, $200 a month is a ton of money. I get that. I'm not saying that most people should get it, but for me, it is absolutely worth the money. Here's an example of this is something I didn't need to do, but I wanted to test it because I knew I needed to demo this, and so I did it. I had a former student reach out to me and talking about unredacting information from PDFs, and they weren't trying to do it from offensive perspective. They work for a government organization that releases a lot of PDFs with redacted information. And they wanted ways to be able to test this to make sure that the information couldn't be unredacted, right? That basically they weren't doing it in a way where it was trivial to unredact the information and see what they were trying to cover up. And so I replied to an email, right? I dictated, obviously used Claude to clean it up, but talking about a few different things to test and kind of what that looked like. Talked about using large language models, which wasn't technically it's not unredacting, it's making educated guesses as to what it thinks is missing. That's kind of cool. We talk about that in the advanced 587 course. But here, after I replied to the email, I'm like, man, I actually need a deep research example for this talk that I'm going to do. So let me ask deep research. And so I said, hey, I had a former do. Here's what I want. Now, you ask deep research the question. Every time you ask the question, it always comes right back with a couple clarifying questions. There's only one round of clarifying questions. I've never had two, but it comes back and it says, hey, are we focusing specifically on PDFs? Right? Should we do a deep dive into manual and automated tools and techniques? Right? Like basically just clarifying questions on whatever you're asking. I then answer, right? Do exactly what I want, kind of answer the clarifying questions, and then it goes. Now, sometimes it takes as quick as like, 6, 7 minutes. I think the longest I've ever had it take with mine is 28 minutes. I think it was around half an hour was the longest I've ever had. I've seen people on Reddit. One person said they asked some very specific kind of research business comparison questions about 40 different businesses, and deep research took like 50 minutes to do. So I haven't hit that mark yet. I describe deep research. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, I describe deep research like this. I was just explaining it to a friend of mine at dinner just the other night, like 2 nights ago. I said, imagine you had an intern at work and you were always tasking them with stuff. Hey, go figure out this. Hey, go look at companies in this space and do a breakdown, like a comparative analysis of them, price offerings, etc. Go do this, go do this. And every time you gave them a tasking, they would come back 3 days later with their report, and the report was always amazing, right? Like it was clear not only did they put in a lot of work, but they used great common sense, right? They understood the project because I've worked before, like in my career, many times with people who you would ask them to do something, and then they would give you the results of the report, and it was like, okay, clearly you did spend some time working on this, but just a complete lack of common sense. Like basically, yes, clearly you put in some work and put some things down on paper, but these in no way, shape, or form answer the questions I was asking you to try to answer. Whereas this intern, right, they always hit the mark. And every time they turn in a report, you read it and you're like, man, I love that kid, right? I love that kid. They do amazing work. That is deep research, right? Except instead of taking 3 days, it takes like half an hour or less usually. And so what it does is this is in the past now, so we can't watch it think live, but live you can actually watch it down the right side thinking, right? For lack of a better term, going through things. One of the first times I used it, I was having it do competitive analysis on a few businesses in one particular space. And a lot of businesses, right? You go try to find out how much something costs and they don't want to tell you. It's like, oh, give us your contact information. We'll reach out. And you're like, no, I don't want to, right? And so deep research was going through finding ways to find out how much stuff costs. And it was amazing because I remember at one point it's like, oh, I found an interview they did on CNBC. So that might have some information. And then you see it like, oh, wait, they wanted you to log in. So, and then started using Google Docs to try to find alternative copies of the content, or alternative copies of the content hosted other places. And that's the type of stuff that it does. So here we go down PDF redaction, we get the introduction, and notice everything is cited, right? Everything is cited. So if we want to, we can click on this link and we can go to the actual article where they were actually citing it from. And oh, yeah, the part that it's citing, it highlights purple in the link. How cool is that? Right? Like, seriously, it is absolutely amazing. The people that I've turned on to deep research are just like it's incredible. Like, yeah, absolutely. I know at least two people that have jumped up to the $200 a month plan because they've started using it more than 10 times a month now too. And like I said, for a lot of people, it's completely not what they need. Maybe you need just a couple times a month and that's cool. For me, I use it so often, it's worth it. But you see here, it's coming down, makes a nice little table of different methods, things to try, right? It's got how they can fail. And you can see, once again, everything is cited. And it's good quality work. It really, really, truly is. Techniques to test it or bypass it. All right, going all the way down here. Best practices, and all this in like not that long of a time. And then an overview of different tools, paid and free, in this space to redact. Final thoughts, and once again, the sources that it referenced, right? That is deep research. It does amazing. Even if you don't have, if you have like at least the $20 a month plan, so you have 10 uses, even if you don't like where you work, and I realize, right, I was in the government for over 20 years. I've had a CI clearance for basically my entire adult life. I get it, right? There are certain things you can't put in here, just like there's certain things you can't put in Google. But even if you can't use this where you work, which hopefully there's something going on, some internal resources, right? It's a different talk for a different day. But interpersonal life, right? I find this unbelievably useful. One of the first times I used this, when I got it about 2 months ago, was I had a friend that was having a birthday, and they were teaching in a city that they don't live in. And I knew where they would be for a very specific window. And I wanted to have something delivered, like a nice little like gift basket, like something like that delivered for their birthday, some birthday balloons, right? Just a little pick me up when they're traveling and teaching on their birthday. Now, here's the problem. I knew where they would be from like 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and a little bit longer too, but I needed it delivered in a very specific, narrow window. Now, no florist in a city is ever going to come out there and implicitly state on their site, right? Oh, yes, we can deliver exactly this 2 hour narrow window that you need. We can do this, we can do that. And so I was going to start researching florists, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually really busy today. Why don't I have deep research do it? And so I said, hey, you know, here's what I want. Here's where my friend's at. I want you to look at florists in this area that can deliver tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. this type of item. Comes back, asks a couple of clarifying questions like what type of items, etc. Boom, I tell it go do its thing. It took, I believe, about 18 minutes. And once again, that entire time, I was busy working on something else. And when it was done, it came back and it's like, and I watched what it did, right? I was working on something else, but every once in a while, I would go kind of double check how it was quote unquote thinking. And what it was doing is because once again, no florist is going to come out and implicitly say, oh, yes, I can deliver between this window and this window. It was reading reviews, right? It was going to like Google Maps and other sources and reading reviews of place and finding out ones that, hey, custom request, super friendly, like very accurate prompt delivery, etc., etc. And it said, you should pick this one right here. Then I had like two backup options. I called the one it picked, told him what I wanted, gave him my credit card number, boom, forgot about it, went back to doing what I was doing. Next morning, because I was on the West Coast, they were on the East Coast. So late morning for me, I get a text message from that friend thanking me and a picture of what they delivered, which was perfect, exactly what I wanted. Now, at a minimum, that saved me probably 45 minutes, right, of trying to research a florist, etc., etc. Probably closer to an hour. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have found that place, right? I probably wouldn't have found, like, I may not have found a place as good. So it did it quick. It did it where I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to babysit it. I was working on other stuff and it knocked out a perfect place, right? So even in your personal life, this stuff, I find myself using it constantly when I travel. As I said, I was recently in Singapore and I was using it all the time. Hey, I'm here and I want to get here. Hey, I'm here. I like doing this type of stuff. What's around here, right? And it's really, really really good at that type of stuff. So new capability they added, if you're in the AI space, you've probably seen this, but their 4.0 model, they've actually made really, really good. They've actually improved it to be the best non-thinking model out there on the market now, which seems kind of weird. And someone's asking them on Twitter why. And it's basically GPU computing cycles, right? It's kind of scarce. It's rough out there. NVIDIA cards being as much as they are. But the 4.0 model, let's do this. Let's give it a picture of myself because I give it permission to myself. Now, all right. Make me a Lego person and have me wearing a Ralph Lauren Polo Bear t-shirt, please. So with this 4.0 model, we will sit there now and it's incredible. Like AI image generation has been wonky, right? It's okay. Sometimes you see some cool ones, but there's a lot worse than there are good. And the text has been horrible, right? Trying to get accurate text has been horrible. And then out of the blue, just like 2 weeks ago, they come out with like, oh yeah, go try the images in 4.0, and you're like, wait, what? Because they are phenomenal. They almost never miss, right? It's really kind of crazy how good they have gotten. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like how Lego does my hair, right? I feel like I have at least like some tiny little bits up there, right? The last remaining remnants of a once great civilization. So the Lego's kind of harsh on the hair, not gonna lie. But you can see here, it is doing exactly what I wanted to do. I've got the nice little Ralph Lauren polo bear t-shirt. Crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. What did that take? Like 30 seconds. Yeah, it's amazing. Me and my buddy sending images back and forth. It's really, really kind of crazy if you haven't checked it out. So, last thing that I want to show real quick, and there's a lot of different options in this space. I personally use one called Cursor. I've been using AI to help me write Python code. Basically, since AI really came out, right? I really have, but it wasn't a super refined process, right? There was a lot of slack in the rope, a lot of ways to improve the process. Cursor now, nothing is perfect. Cursor is kind of amazing. So I started up Cursor right before I started talking here, and I pointed it at an empty folder I made on my desktop called Cursor Demo. I'm now holding down Control and I, and you see this chat window pop up. So now, could type, but why? Type like a barbarian. No thanks. Okay, I want you to make me a little bit of code to, what do I need? I just need you to write a little Python code. Let's do this. Let's say I have a Discord channel and I want you to write me some Python code to let me know anytime any friends, right, new friends join my Discord channel. I want you to fire an alert to a Slack webhook. I want you to use Python to write the code and have the configuration file for like Discord, like the bot authentication for the API and like a Slack webhook, all that. Just have that set in like a config.json file and do it in this folder and knock yourself out, make any improvements that you think. I want this to be a great program because I'm talking you up. So go do your best, right? So you can specify the model that you want. Usually I use Claude 3.7 to do my coding, or it recently started saying like, hey, I'll just I'll pick for you based on what you're asking it to do. Usually, like I said, I use Claude 3.7, but Cursor is now going through and writing all the code. And if you look here on the left-hand side, this previously empty folder, it is now actually generating the files and making them in this folder. It is incredible, right? Shout out to Dave Cowan, who, when Cursor came out, started harassing me. Hey, I'm playing with Cursor. You got to go check it out. Okay, what is it? He told me. He's like a day later. He's like, no, you got to go check out Cursor, right? So I did. And yeah, I haven't stopped using it since. So now what do we have? We have a config.json, a Discord Slack notifier Python code, a README, yeah, for documentation. Oh God, it's so good for creating documentation on how to do things. And a requirements.txt, which, excuse me, it doesn't have much in there right now. That is Cursor. And so, like I said, the VS Code has plugins too. There's other things that do similar. There's a new one called Replit, which is kind of designed for apps, web-based stuff. And it's kind of crazy because they have their own infrastructure you can host things onto. I just signed up for that, started playing with that like a week ago. But there is a lot out there, right? The bar to be a adequate, acceptable, like to write. No, I don't call myself a developer. I don't call myself a programmer because I'm not. I can write Python code that gets the job done, right? There's a big difference. And now the bar to do that is so much lower than it ever has been. It's kind of crazy. So, talking, right? Claude to clean up what I'm saying, deep research, the image generation. Like I said the other day when I did knocked out 5 blog posts in 28 minutes, I would dictate the blog post to Claude, have Claude clean it up, paste that into OpenAI 4.0, say make me a picture to go with this. It was making that, paste it into my blog, boom, boom, onto the next one, onto the next one. right? It's still you, right? It's not cheating. We're just using AI to greatly enhance our effort and really try to speed things up, right? Once again, removing the friction between us as human beings and the AI that we're using. So there's 25 minutes. We're now exactly at that. Hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.